Khazars, Tribe 13. This is a new book. The Khazars, Tribe 13. This is a new book written by Yair Davidiy, that is myself. And I am speaking to you now from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel. I am speaking to you on behalf of Brit-Am, Hebrew Nations. Brit-Am, Hebrew Nations is a movement that researches the whereabouts of the lost 10 tribes. It researches where the lost 10 tribes went to, and it propagates, reveals information that we find through our researches. That is, we research and we reveal, and we also work towards the reconciliation. We reconcile. We work towards the reconciliation of Judah and of the 10 tribes. That is, there are 3 R's: are research, revelation, reconciliation. And we are based in Jerusalem, but we have a message, and we have supporters and outposts all over the world, especially in the USA, Britain, Australia, and other nations. But this is what we do. This is what we are. And the lost 10 tribes were part of the whole 12 tribes of Israel. They separated from the other tribes. They set up their own independent kingdom, which was conquered by the Assyrians, who had taken away the lost consciousness of their identity. And most of them were taken to the north. They were taken to the north and eventually migrated or moved out of the Middle East into the area of southern Russia by the Caspian and the Black Sea area and the Caucasus Mountains. And from there they moved onwards, gravitating towards Western Europe, where most of their ancestors, most of their descendants are to be found now amongst Western peoples. And these peoples, on the whole, are unaware of their Israelite ancestry. But when they moved to the west, they left a portion of them, pockets of them behind in this region of southern Russia, and these peoples became the Khazars, a nation known as the Khazars. And we have written a book about them. The Khazars, Tribe 13, is a book about this section of the 10 tribes who remained behind, and eventually in part reattached themselves to the Israelite nations. Historically, the Khazars, also known as Khazars, were a semi-nomadic people who moved around, but they ruled over a lot of other nations, became prominent in southern Russia in the period of 600s to 900 CE, and they continued to exist until about the 1200s, with pockets of them remaining afterwards. They were quite powerful at one stage, and as I said, they ruled over a lot of other nations, and they received tribute from them, and they were, relatively speaking, cultured and advanced, civilized, humane, compared to the other nations around them. They had a civilizing influence on the peoples, and they also had an far-reaching influence. They influenced other peoples, even in Scandinavia and other different sections of Europe. Their influence is remarked upon and can be proved by archaeology. Their leadership and a good portion of their rank and file also converted to Judaism, and those who survived from amongst them became part of the Jewish people. Most Jews are not descended from the Khazars. This is a slur propagated by Arabs and by anti-Semites. It is not substantiated by research. It's not confirmed by proof on the ground. The present-day Jews are descended from Judah. They are not descended from the Khazars, but there may be Khazars amongst them. And even if they were, it would not matter, because the Khazars themselves were also descended from Israelites. At all events, the present-day Jews, Ashkenazic Jews, the Jews of Europe, have very little, almost none. There's no real proof of any substantial body of people descended from the Khazars having been absorbed by the Ashkenazic Jews. Though there may have been, but it has not been proven, and the proof is not there. And as we said, even if it was so, it would not matter, because the Khazars were also part of the tribes of Israel. We've written a book concerning the Khazars because the subject is interesting, the story is interesting, a lot of the information is not known, and also because it reflects upon peoples in the West. We say that the peoples amongst the Western nations are descended from the tribes of Israel. We prove it from all different sources, and one of the sources that we can prove it indirectly is from the Khazars themselves, because proofs concerning the Khazars also reflect upon Western peoples, and the Khazars were related to these peoples in the West. So one of our criteria, we have an Ephraimite criteria deciding who belongs to the 10 tribes, which nations are descended from the tribes of Israel, which are not. One of them is family, that the nation whom we presume or want to prove show as being descended from the tribes of Israel should have ethnic connections with other tribes, which to whom similar evidence pertains. Now, historically, the Khazars were formed of different nations, different groups of people in different areas, but not that far away from each other. One area was northern Mesopotamia and south of the Caucasus Mountains. Another one was just north of the Caucasus. Another was by the Don River region. Another was by the Volga region. And all these areas, relatively speaking, are not that distant from each other, especially when we are dealing with people who are nomadic, who moved around from one place to another. And in the situation of the time, the situation that prevailed in a geographical, historical point of view, at that time, a lot of different groups moved around from one area to the other, and it was quite common for a nation to be divided up into different sections, to be loosely connected, and to be spread out somewhat, with other nations intervening between them, or other different areas of ground intervening between them. And we found evidence of Israelite ancestry from all of these groups that form the Khazar nations. We show how these 4 groups came to form the Khazar nations, what happened to them, and how they amalgamated, how they came together. We also show how each and every one of these 4 groups were descended from Israelites, and we bring various proofs for this, and these proofs are conclusive, and some of them are acknowledged by academics at an academic level, and some of them are relatively speaking, is new evidence that we have found, or evidence that was known of, but for some reason or other was not related to until the present day, or it was related to in the past and has been, for different reasons, forgotten unjustly. At all events, the Khazars, this book, the Khazars, Tribe 13, proves where the lost tribes went to, and also proves that a section of them became the Khazar nation. We discussed every aspect of the subject. We don't hide any opinions, any relative bit of information, whether it works in our favour or not. We bring everything that is known about on this subject, and we discuss it, and we show its relevance to the overall picture. And we bring every claim concerning the ethnic origins or the ethnic alliances, genealogy of the Khazars, and we show which ones are valid and which are not, and we show also that there was a strong tradition amongst the Khazars and amongst neighbouring peoples of the Khazars were indeed Israelites. And the ruling house of the Khazars was named after the house of Jesse. That is Jesse. Jesse was the father of David. House of Jesse is another name also found in the Bible for the house of David, and the ruling house of the Khazars was known by this name. This was a name given to it, and this indicates that the ruling house of the Khazars was from the tribe of David. The tribe of David was Judah, but even though the tribe of David was Judah, we have indications that from David, from the ruling house of David, other tribes received their rulers. They accepted rulers from the house of David over other tribes, even from the 10 tribes, even after they had separated themselves off from Judah in Jerusalem. And we have parallels to this throughout European history, where one nation, when it became independent from another nation, would accept a king from a prevailing royal house, even if it was not necessarily from their own country. And so to the 10 tribes of Israel, apparently was accepted amongst them to receive a ruler from the house of David over them. So this is also an indication of Israelite origin. Also, the Khazars seem to mostly refer to themselves as Jews, or rather as Hebrews. They are referred to as Hebrews. They refer to themselves as Hebrews, and their neighbours refer to them as Hebrews. When the word Hebrew from Russian, from Bulgarian, from Greek is translated into English, the word Jews is used. So this causes some confusion. It should really be Hebrew. the word Hebrew is the word that the neighbours applied to them, and the name that they apparently used for themselves. They consider themselves Hebrews and were considered Hebrews by others. And Hebrew is another word for Israelite in general. And they had traditions that they descend from the tribes of Manasseh and Shimeon, and also from other tribes. And they were part of the Sakai-Scythian group of peoples, amongst whom we find other Israelite nations, most of whom moved to the west, including the Angles and the Saxons, who invaded England and gave rise to the English-speaking peoples, and who we have shown elsewhere descended from the tribes of Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. The Khazars, a portion of them, split away from the main section at a late date and moved to Scotland. They joined the nation known as the Picts in Scotland, and their culture was influenced, or they influenced the culture of the Scottish nation. And in Scottish tradition they're known as Agathyrsi. Agathyrsi was another name for the Khazars, and we prove this from documentation, and it is quite well known. It's also confirmed by Roman records who were contemporary with this movement of the Khazars of the Agathyrsi across the sea to the British Isles. Also the Asir, who were the ancestral gods, or the ancestors of the Scandinavian peoples, the ancestral heroes, they too were a people who were connected with the Khazars in tradition. And so on. And we have so therefore we prove that the Khazars were connected to the tribes of Israel. We also find settlements of Khazar elements in Scandinavia. We show that they were related to the Scandinavian peoples, related to the Anglo-Saxon peoples, related to the Pictish peoples of the British Isles, and also show that they were Israelites. We prove that they were Israelites, and we describe what happened to them and how they developed in the history of their kingdom, and throughout their history, throughout their development, and the adventures that befell them, and that the expeditions and the projects that they undertook. Very often an Israelite or Hebrew character prevails. This book is interesting, it is important, especially because enemies of the Jewish people, actually enemies of the Israelite nations, try and use the Khazars. They said that the Khazars were non-Jewish people, the non-Israelite people, who accepted Judaism, accepted the Jewish religion, and that most of the Jewish people are descended from them, and therefore the present-day Jews are not real Jews, but imposters, people who came in from outside and claimed to be Jews. And even if this was true, it would be acceptable. The Jewish religion, the Jewish faith, and the Bible allows non-Israelites to become Israelites by accepting religious principles. So if it was true, we could deal with it. It is not true. It is not valid. It is incorrect, and we show how it is incorrect. And in addition to that, we also show that the Khazars, just for the record, were also of Hebraic ancestry, and that this reflects the Hebraic ancestry of peoples in the West, in America, in the British Isles, and in Western Europe. And they should know about this, and this fact, and these facts, and this truth should be known. Thank you very much. May God of Israel bless all of you.